Hello, everybody, and welcome to your second cup of Linux Plus coffee. I'm Shickle, and with me today is Jason Evangelo, our co-host. How are you doing today?
I am caffeinated.
The best way to be.
Yes, this is my third cup. You know, we try to record this in my morning anyway, and you're like dark 30. But I already had 2 cups, and I was like, well, I have to drink coffee for Linux Plus coffee, so I better make another cup. No, I'm
only fair.
I'm fine with it. How are you doing, man?
Complain about coffee. I'm doing fantastic. I mean, it's been a morning. I kept hitting the snooze button. I was like, I'm gonna go to sleep early and just kind of wake up at the right time, so I'll be nice and refreshed. And I just kept hitting snooze because it's so easy to do.
Is this your morning or is this your late night?
It's basically my morning, but it could also be my late night. It
That
really
is
depends
wild.
on how the day before goes.
Oh my God.
The week before last, we talked about Pop! OS and the website. And one thing that we had asked everybody else was would they consider supporting Pop one time or whether they would just donate once. You posted a Twitter poll about it, if I'm not mistaken.
The results are in, and they're really interesting because the question was, would you pay a $12 yearly subscription to support, not to subscribe to, not to get access to, but to support Pop! OS? And, I also said your reasons for or against doing that are perfectly valid, and just vote honestly and let us hear your feedback. So we had a total of 528 votes, and 48.9% of those people said yes, they would. Almost the majority, right? 24.1% said no, they would not. And a larger percentage, 27%, said no, but I would donate once. So if you add all that up, it is about 76% of respondents saying, hey, I would give some money to Pop! OS, whether that's a one-time donation or annual support, like a subscription or something. I want to highlight some of the responses because I found them very, very interesting. We had, dozens of responses, and this was definitely, I think, a topic that gets people talking. It triggers that whole debate over free as in freedom or free as in free beer, right?
I saw Nick from the Linux Experiment comment in on it, and he said that it was absolutely worth it. Optional for support and not mandatory to keep using the OS. What I thought was really interesting is that he's actually been a proponent of paid support for software for a while in terms of Linux. Like, he's a huge elementary OS supporter, and he's always been a proponent. So it was good to see him chime in there as well with a similar sort of sentiment.
Now, one person kind of went along the same lines as my, not necessarily my belief, but my suggestion from Linux Plus Coffee number 1, which is, okay, so we have a hardware company that has customers, that is, known worldwide, that is making a profit off of those hardware sales. And so is it weird? Do you feel weird by donating to their software project, right? Because these aren't developers who are volunteering, right? They are paid to develop Pop! OS. So W.E. Larson said, I don't think I would, because System 76 is a company that created Pop! OS to support its own hardware. If it was a community project like Ubuntu Mate, then yes.
That's a really interesting approach, because it is an aspect of the conundrum, so to speak. I mean, it's not like it's a factor that isn't there. So it's difficult to kind of understand where we draw the line between, is it a community project? Is it a paid project? Because if it's not a community project, if it is a paid project, then why are we supporting them in terms of donations?
Well, but it's both, right?
Yeah.
It is not solely community driven like an Ubuntu Mate, but it is open source, and there are community contributions to the source code. Yeah. So, that's what makes this a really fascinating discussion. And Expander said, I answered no because I'm not using Pop! OS. I would if I used it, though. And there were a lot of responses like that. Like, well, no, I'm not using it, but if that were my daily driver, I would totally give them $12 a year. And some people were saying like, yeah, that's what I pay for Netflix every month. Star Nerd, I hope I said that right. Starry Nerd, maybe Star Nerd, said maybe, but only if there's no benefits incurred from this. I love truly free software, which should remain truly free. No benefits of any sort should be given to those who donate. And I saw that sentiment a lot too. Like, I saw both, and we'll have a link to this entire discussion on Twitter, because there's a lot of really thoughtful responses to dig into here. So there were two different sides to this particular kind of reply. Like Star Nerd said, he doesn't want people who donate to get anything extra, right? But the other side of the coin is people said, I think it would be really cool if I were a, subscriber of sorts and I was paying that $12 a year to System 76 for Pop! OS, I would like to get the level of support for Pop! OS that System 76 hardware customers get. All I can say is that I hope this poll and all the responses are kind of an interesting thought exercise for System 76. I know they're watching it. And so it's got to be encouraging for them to see that really high percentage of people saying, yes, I would donate in some capacity. And it's got to, I'm hoping that they are analyzing some of this feedback about, maybe we could have some kind of line of support for Pop! OS that's an official subscription or something like that, another source of revenue, right?
Realistically, I don't know if $12 a month is what they would keep it at, but that's a
$12 a year
bar to entry.
$12 a year.
Sorry.
Yeah, $12
that's
a year.
Pretty low bar to entry.
One other thing I wanted to point out about this entire discussion is that Carl Rochelle, the CEO of System 76, he came out and he said, this is actually something that the community has asked us to implement. And so that's why we put it on the new Pop! OS website.
So, of course, as with any response, you'll always get people who are in the total polar opposite direction. And I did find it interesting to see that some people on the poll had said no, and they had said that they expect a Windows or Mac level type of product to pay. But the thing that struck me out about that was that, first and foremost, Windows and Mac cost massively different amounts of money, not just a one-time thing, but for pretty much every other service you're engaging with as well. It's not just the OS is outright this price. It'll always continue to cost you something. So that right there alone is kind of interesting. Like, System 76 is giving us quite a lot by offering us this.
All I know is that they seem to have a very rabid and passionate fan base that I did not see 2 years ago when I got into Linux. Like, right when I had discovered Pop! OS, it was only a couple months into my Linux journey. And I guess either it didn't exist or I didn't perceive that really just loving and passionate fan base around Pop! OS that I see now.
There are some really passionate users around it, and I see it in example in the Linux for Everyone group. There's a few users in there who I knew used Pop! OS, but I didn't realize that it was their daily driver, and it's what they use all the time. And then I was like, oh, they even used you for the testimonials in their website. So I thought
a couple users, and they didn't really cite press, which I think is cool. Even though I'm press and I'm a journalist, but I like it when companies just go to normal users and not like fake normal users, right? Users that that are in your community, that are vouching for that product. So, Pop! OS is a weird one for me, man. It's my daily driver. It's what I use to produce everything. I like visually, it's not my favorite distribution, so I'm so torn on it every day. I'm like, man, I really miss Elementary. Man, I really wish Pop used KDE, but I stick to it because it just works. Frustrating that there are so many gorgeous and ambitious Linux distributions out there.
What a problem to have.
What a problem to have. Let's move on. This is, of course, Linux plus coffee, and a lot of you said, you guys should actually talk more about coffee. And so we're going to do that.
I have a guilty, I have an admission. I've been drinking almost all of my coffee from a Keurig machine.
Why is that a guilty? Why do you feel guilt about it? Is it because of the fact that they're not recyclable and you can't reuse them, or is it just more because like you're lazy? Or I'm sorry. Schickel is destroying. Schickel is lazy and destroying the planet.
Absolutely. That's my priority number one as soon as I become the new Linux mascot. Actually, I'd never actually thought about that, but the recycling part is a good point. That probably does create a lot of waste. We do have a lot of coffee grounds, like in bags and things like that I can actually grind up. Mm-hmm. And they have K-cups that I could probably end up using that are just reusable. So that might be the route that I end up going with it. But I think for me, the guilt is mostly that I enjoy coffee so much, but put so little effort into it. And I think that's what bugs me about it, is I'm like, this feels wrong.
I'm the exact opposite. So I used to use just a regular drip coffee maker, right? A filter coffee maker. I started drinking coffee when I was 15. So for probably 25 years or so, I just stuck to that. However, I have bought manual espresso machines where you grind it, you tamp it, you put it in, you steam your milk, get some of that creamy froth at the end. But that was way too much work. Like, it's just such a production. And then I actually worked as a shift supervisor at Starbucks for a few years. And after I left that job, I was like, nope, I don't want to do this myself anymore. But somewhere along the way, I discovered the AeroPress. And the AeroPress, for those of you who don't know, it's just this self-contained plastic device, and it's sort of like a mix between a French press and an old school vacuum press. I mean, I won't go into like super specifics, but it's cheap. It's really easy to use. It's extremely easy to clean up. You just heat up some water, you pour your coffee into the AeroPress, and stop laughing. If he's laughing a lot, it's because I just tried to say this like 5 times, and that'll probably be in the blooper section and not in the like proper show.
Just that moment of defeat where you're just like, you know what, just put the water in.
You just put the water in. Anyway, I think we'll have a video at the front of this episode that actually shows JoeAllenMusic.com, an awesome musician and fan of the show, who put together this really just kind of seductive footage of him preparing an AeroPress cup of coffee in the Linux for Everyone mug. But anyway, that's my preferred method of brewing, and it's just nice because it doesn't give you all that the kind of muddy residue that you get out of a French press. And it's not as strong as espresso, and you can really just control like how strong you want it. And it's super easy to clean up. You just like just pop the filter into the trash can, give it a little rinse, and you're good to go. Like cleaning up a French press is such a mess. Anyway,
it's like cleaning up like a mud cake factory to me, at least. It's just there's dirt everywhere, basically.
It's not fun, and then you have to wait for it. Like, God, wait 4 minutes for it to Just, I pour my water into the AeroPress, I stir it a bit, wait like 10 seconds, done. That concludes our section on coffee talk. For the next episode, though, I want to talk to you guys about the coffee culture in Croatia. So hopefully you can look forward to that. I've lived here about 3 years now and have definitely been able to observe the vast differences in American culture and Eastern European coffee culture. And that's something I'm kind of dying to talk about. But Schickel.
Yes.
Let's tell the people what we are really here to rant about this week.
Yeah, so I'll go ahead and intro this one because I have a feeling you're gonna be pretty passionate about it. And this week we've settled on the topic of super keys, and there's a lot behind super keys, and I think what they symbolize, not technically, but philosophically, ideologically, just it's the principle of it, I think it's the principle of it, and it's more than just a key, it's a statement.
The reason that we wanted to discuss this is because as positive and encouraging as most of the answers were from Matthew Miller and Mark Pearson in the Lenovo and Fedora interview, as awesome as that talk was, I had this feeling when I asked them, so are these Fedora laptops, these Fedora ThinkPads, are they going to have a super key or a Windows key? And I just knew in the back of my mind that, it was going to be the same response that Dell gives you. It's identical hardware, and so no, it's going to have the Windows key on it and not a customized super key. And it honestly, it ruffled my feathers a bit because, and this is why, okay? I have 4 laptops sitting here. Here is a System 76 Lemur Pro.
Gosh,
can I do this properly? Where's the super key? Okay.
There it is. That is really wild. I've never actually seen that before.
Maybe that's that's definitely on my Oryx Pro as well, which I'm using right now to record. So you've got this, and I like the way this looks, right? And it's unique.
Yeah.
It's not a Windows thing. It's not a Mac thing. Okay. System 76, not a global behemoth corporation with tons of money. Here is the very comparable Tuxedo Computers Infinity Book S. All right.
Oh.
And they have their own. That's their Tuxedo logo. So that is their super key. Now, when you order some of the Manjaro Infinity Book Pros from Tuxedo, they're going to have the Manjaro logo lasered on as the super key. All right.
That's kind of cool.
Here is one from Star Labs. Have you guys heard of Star Labs?
That's good stuff, yeah.
So here is a Star Labs laptop, and for some reason my lighting is not working. And I hope you can see that, but that just says
super on it.
It just says super. And here is the Dell XPS 13 7390 developer.
I know where this is going.
Developer edition with Ubuntu, and there's a Windows key. And look, I understand some people are going to dual boot, okay? But I want to understand why a small European company can simply charge you like 70 euros or 60 euros or whatever their extra charge is. If I want to get a Linux for Everyone logo as my super key on several of their laptops, I can do that. Yeah, here's 60 euros. Print it. Laser that thing on there. Why is a small, like, still probably viewed as a startup hardware company in Colorado getting their chassis from Clevo and Sager? Why can they afford to do that? Why can they afford to go, we're going to swap out the Windows key for our own super key? So that's why I'm frustrated, right? Why can't Lenovo and Dell, who should be, and they are championing Linux, but why can't they take it that extra step when these smaller companies can? All right, I'm going to breathe.
I feel like they maybe... Okay, technically, I'm sure they could. I've done a bit of digging into the history of the super key.
Okay.
And the super key is ancient. Like, it predates Windows itself, if I'm not mistaken. And Apple was actually the first, like, mainstream system to use it. It was initially created for something called the the Galaxy board or some Star board or some stupid thing like that. It sounds like a video game thing, but I think it was made for programmers who used a language called Lisp. So Windows eventually ended up adopting it. And around, I think, the earlier days of XP, or maybe a version or two before that, they had started licensing hardware companies to actually have the Windows key printed on their boards in a specific fashion.
Right. Okay.
And these kinds of standards, I think, have made it somewhat difficult for hardware companies to move away from it. Even like this board right here, I'll pull off. This is my keyboard that's on my desk. It's just got a normal super key on it. And it's not even, or not a normal super key, a Windows
Start.
key.
A start key, maybe, or I mean, there's different names for it, but yeah, start key, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And this board, I mean, it's not attached to a laptop. It's not attached to.
Yeah, but it's just the standard. Let's be honest, it is the standard because, Windows controls 90% of the PC ecosystem. So,
and it is a shame. And I think where this comes from is actually because they are already shipping this hardware. Because it's already something that they've got in their production lines and they've already gone ahead and designed. It's either A, not something that they can change because their production process doesn't really allow for that. These are just things that are already kind of along the way, and changing the OS is something that's done by probably the software teams and not by the hardware teams. Or because they might not actually be allowed to. They might be contracted with Microsoft to exclusively print hardware. Yeah. It's pretty awful. It's pretty awful.
We don't know that.
We don't.
But, you mentioned those licensing fees for the start key, the Windows key back in the day. I wish I knew more about this from a legal standpoint, but wouldn't it stand to reason that the companies could save money if they did not use that key?
I don't know if it was the other way around. I'm not sure if Microsoft paid them. I'm pretty sure now they probably pay Microsoft no matter what it was back in the day, because that's just how Microsoft is these days. But it is possible that because Windows had become the standard, that it wouldn't make much sense not to do this. Like it would be something that you'd be the odd man left out, I think, if you didn't take that step. Hardware politics.
For me, I occasionally use Windows, not as a daily driver, not to get any work done, maybe to play the occasional game that I simply can't play on Linux because it's impossible. But for me, it almost feels embarrassing to tote around, the Dell XPS Developer Edition with a Windows key. If I go into a cafe bar or a restaurant or out in public, like, because I'm a Linux advocate, I want people to walk by and see a penguin or see something besides, and maybe it catches their eye, and maybe they go, "Hey, what is that? I've never seen that before." Like, have you heard about our Lord and Savior Linux? I mean, I don't know if I would do that, but you know where I'm coming from, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I've been in that boat before myself. Like almost all of my laptops, actually, if with the exception of one, has a Windows key on it, and none of them have Windows on them.
Yeah. And of course, those are probably primarily shipped or only shipped with Windows. But my point of contention arrives when we get to the Dell and Lenovo issue. Like, I don't have an issue if Asus wants to do that, if MSI wants to do that, if Gigabyte wants to do that, if Razer wants to do that, because they don't offer an out-of-the-box Linux shipping option. I just feel like if you are going to advocate for Linux and you're going to set up a website like dell.com/Linux dedicated to all your Linux machines and developer edition laptops, like, just take that extra step. Even if you have to charge us extra money for it, we know it's possible. Tuxedo Computers is doing it. Star Labs is doing it. And they're taking these mass-produced chassis and customizing them.
It's not like we're not willing to pay extra for things, because Linux users, I think, are fairly certain or are fairly understanding of the fact that they are in a niche.
Yeah, and when you're in a niche, you sometimes pay extra. That's why you pay extra for an Oryx Pro laptop versus something of a similar spec from MSI or Dell, because smaller quantities are produced, higher costs because they're doing it all in house. They don't have the economy of scale. That's what I was looking for. They don't have the economy of scale that a Dell and Lenovo has. But I really do wish that those two OEMs would step forward and offer it as an option. I don't care. I don't care if it's $100 more. Just offer it. Just offer it.
Sure enough, there will be people rolling around in conferences or in rooms somewhere, and there will be a non-Windows key on somebody's laptop. Like, it's something that people will definitely do.
Mm-hmm.
They're already going out of their way to buy a Linux-specific laptop.
And you're proud of that. I really feel like some people who might pay, okay, you're paying $50 less to get an XPS Developer Edition laptop with Linux on it, right? Because you're not paying for that Windows license fee. And Dell is paying a little bit less for that machine. So they pass some of that savings on to you, which is awesome. But I feel like it's not the complete package. It's just that far away from being the complete package that I can boast about and be prideful of. And
because hardware-wise, it's the same laptop that the Windows users are getting. It just has some other OS slapped onto it, which means, granted, grateful that it's there, but at the same time, I don't really think there's any. Not to say there's no work going into it, because obviously somebody has to campaign for it. Somebody has to actually make this okay with Dell.
Maybe this will change someday. Until then, like, as much, oh man, I'm having an inner argument with myself right now, because after doing that Lenovo and Fedora interview, I want that new ThinkPad X1 Carbon.
It looks good.
With Fedora 32 workstation on it. Like, I want that. I've wanted a ThinkPad for years because of the keyboard. That is the major difference between ThinkPads and all other laptops on the market. You can have your like practically non-existent bezels on your XPS laptops, but you will not get a keyboard as comfortable and as much of a joy to type on as a ThinkPad. And so my inner struggle is like, man, I really want to buy one of those X1 Carbons when they come out. If I'm spending that kind of money, I want something that is a Linux machine.
Something for you, not just... Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a struggle. It's a struggle. But we want to know what you think. So leave your feedback in the comments, or you can find us on Twitter at Linux4Everyone. You can, of course, join the Telegram group and talk about it there. t.me/Linux4Everyone. Links, as always, are at the bottom of this video, along with places you can buy some Linux for Everyone merch and where you can find Shickles videos. By the way, kudos for that shower scene you did. I'm not gonna leave the details on this video. Like, people are gonna have to click on your channel and see what I'm talking about. But that shower video, man, that was... What else do we want to? Are we good? Oh, what else?
I have some good news.
Oh, go.
So this is something that I did recently, and I mean, it's not like a huge thing, but I was pretty happy with it. I sold my first laptop with Linux yesterday, and the great thing is Pop! OS, the way it's installed allows you to install it in a sort of OEM mode, so whoever gets the laptop can just set it up the way they like. There's no passwords you've already configured.
Yeah.
So I sold one of our laptops to somebody. It was in great condition because I hate seeing hardware get damaged.
Good for you.
And so, yeah, I was just really happy with that because they took onto it super well. They were enjoying it. And, I told them, do you have any questions? Or if you absolutely need it, I mean, Windows is attached to the device. So if you need to install Windows, it's already activated and you're fine. But yeah, they got on with Pop! OS. They're doing well so far. So
did they ask you for Pop! OS or was it like a surprise?
It was a pop. I had put it on the description that the Windows key was attached to the device, but Linux was installed. I actually did put Pop! OS specifically, but in parentheses I put Linux OS just because if it helps, they can do a little bit of research. But they seemed happy with it. I was really excited to see that.
Oh, that's cool. That was like your Trojan horse to get somebody into Linux, perhaps. That's pretty sweet.
Take a look at this laptop. There's nothing suspicious about it.
Before we go, what are you working on over on your YouTube channel?
Oh, what am I working on? So I have done a little bit of thinking, and I want to keep doing small little app picks where I just take a look at things that I find and I want to draw attention to, usually very simple applications. but I've also been doing videos about like Ubuntu and different changes and things that they've made, which I think could definitely use more attention.
One of his videos is about Fragments, which is a BitTorrent client that is like by far the most elegant.
It's just so clean.
BitTorrent client. Yeah, it's just clean. It looks like it was developed for elementary. But yeah, anyway, go check out that video. Subscribe to this channel if you want more Linux Plus Coffee and tons of other videos about stuff, cool stuff. All right, guys, that's going to do it for Linux Plus Coffee Cup number 2. Hope you enjoyed the show. On behalf of Schickel and the entire team at Linux for Everyone, take care of each other, and we'll see you for the next video. You just, you grind it, you pour your, oh my God. You grind your beans, you pour your, Jesus Christ. What are they called? Grounds? Grind?
Grounds. Yeah.
What the
That's a weird one.
All right. So if you add all that up, I mean, that is almost...
I was like, wait, where is this going?
I'm trying to do simple math in my head on 3 cups of coffee, and I can't. Anyway, guys, that's going to do it for Linux Plus Coffee, cup number 2. Cup number 2. Let me do that again.